Today, I want to talk about relative dating. Relative dating is when you look at fossils and layers within the Earth and determine which layer was put down first. And from that, you can determine the order in which things were put into the ground. For example, you can think of the layers of the soil as being like a stack of books. And your bottom book, when you make a stack, is always on the bottom. That's the first one you put down. Then you keep adding books, one on top of the other, until you have a stack of books. The book on the bottom was the first book. The book on the top was the last book. So we can think about these layers of rock going down into the Earth's crust as being like a stack of books piled one on top of the other. So up here we have this modern farm. And if we look under the modern farm, you'll see modern animals here, first of all. And, if an animal should die, it might get buried, and we might find a very, very recent skeleton right up here on the top. But as we dig downward, we're going to find that the fossils that we find are going to get older in time. So here we have a skeleton of a woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth would have died in the last ice age, which geologically speaking wasn't that long ago. The last ice age ended about 12,000 years ago, so that really wasn't that long ago in time. And as we dig downward here, we have some fossils of monkeys and apes that were deposited prior to the ice age. And if we keep going back in time, we find early mammals. These early mammals would have been very, very small, rodent-like creatures. And this period of time where we see mammals dominating the planet, that's called the Cenozoic era. Prior to the Cenozoic era, if we dig a little deeper, we come to the Mesozoic era. And the Mesozoic era is the age of dinosaurs. And different kinds of dinosaurs lived in different periods of time. So in this case, we see a Stegosaurus fossil right here above this pterodactyl fossil, indicating that the Stegosaurus was deposited more recently in time than the pterodactyl was. The Mesozoic era is called the Age of Dinosaurs. And if we look up here, we have this boundary. And it's called the KT boundary because it's where the KT extinction happens. The KT extinction is that meteorite event that we believe caused the dinosaurs on the planet to become extinct. And one piece of evidence we have for an extinction here is that we don't see dinosaur fossils above the KT boundary. When we get back here in time, we only see dinosaur fossils below it. So this is where they must have gone extinct. If we keep going lower, we have another event that kind of happened that started the dinosaur period, the Mesozoic era. It's called the Permian extinction. And the Permian extinction, they believe, was caused by a great period of volcanic activity, and it killed about 80% of the species on Earth. And the dinosaur age resulted. Now, one thing that's a little misleading in this picture is there were other animals on the Earth other than dinosaurs during the Mesozoic era. A matter of fact, some mammals were already living back during the Mesozoic era, but most of the fossils are dinosaurs, indicating that dinosaurs dominated the planet. If we keep going further back in time by digging deeper, we can see that reptiles were present in this layer. Amphibians go all the way back to this layer. Jawed fishes, jawless fishes, and all the way back to invertebrates. So you can almost think about the fossil record as a timeline. And this timeline tells us the relative time when different organisms appeared. We call it relative dating because we don't know exactly from the fossil record that the KT extinction right here happened 68 million years ago. Relative dating just allows us to compare which events are older, which events are younger. So we know here, these early mammals here came after the KT extinction. All the dinosaur fossils were before it. That doesn't tell us when this happened. We have another kind of dating called radioactive dating, where we use the amount of radiation that a particular fossil or rock gives off. And that information can be used to come up with when exactly did things happen. So we believe this was about 68 million years ago. So this screenshot gets you to understand how we can put different events in the geologic timescale into order. One other thing I want to note about this is it would be incredibly rare to find all of these fossils, one underneath the other, in one location on Earth. Typically, you find mammals in high up layers in one location, and maybe you find dinosaurs in a totally different place on Earth. So they're not all stacked up perfectly vertically like this, but you will find that the dinosaur fossils are deposited deeper, and the woolly mammoth fossils from the last ice age were deposited much more shallowly. And that's how relative dating works.